There are moments when silence carries more weight than any headline, and within the world of the royal family, silence is never accidental. It is intentional, measured, and often more revealing than words themselves. Recently, attention has quietly shifted towards Sarah Ferguson, a figure who has long existed in a unique and complex position within royal life. She has never been entirely inside the institution, yet she has never been completely outside it either. For years, she has navigated that delicate balance with a kind of resilience that has defined her public image, weathering scrutiny, adapting to changing circumstances, and maintaining a presence that feels both familiar and unpredictable. However, something about the current moment feels different, not in a loud or dramatic way, but in a quieter, more subtle shift that has gradually captured attention. It is not about a single confirmed event or a clear statement, but rather about a noticeable change in tone, a soft withdrawal from visibility, and an atmosphere that feels heavier than usual. When someone who has long been part of the public rhythm suddenly becomes less visible, people begin to notice. Not immediately, not all at once, but slowly, as patterns begin to change. Appearances become fewer, public moments feel more limited, and communication seems increasingly restrained. Within royal circles, such changes rarely come with explanation. There are no sudden announcements or direct clarifications. Instead, there are small, controlled adjustments. Schedules shift, engagements are quietly reduced, and official communication becomes more measured. Individually, these changes may appear insignificant, but together they form a pattern, one that suggests something beneath the surface may be evolving. What makes this particularly compelling is that it is not driven by confirmed facts, but by the absence of them. There is no official narrative to follow, no clear explanation to settle the curiosity, and that lack of clarity becomes a powerful force in itself. In an institution where visibility plays a crucial role, even a slight shift in presence can carry meaning. The royal family does not rely solely on words to communicate, it relies heavily on perception. What is seen, what is not seen, and how those elements are interpreted all contribute to the narrative that surrounds it. For someone like Sarah Ferguson, this dynamic is especially significant. She understands the rhythm of royal life in a way that few others do. She knows when to step forward, when to step back, and how silence can sometimes say more than any carefully crafted statement. Her position, both connected to and distanced from the core of the institution, gives her a perspective that is rare. It allows her to observe not only the public-facing side of royal life, but also the quieter, more nuanced shifts that occur behind the scenes. This perspective, however, also places her in a space where interpretation becomes inevitable. When visibility changes, when communication slows, and when the usual rhythm feels disrupted, questions begin to emerge. Why the sudden quiet? Why the reduced presence? Why the shift in tone? At this stage, there are no confirmed answers, and that uncertainty is precisely what keeps the narrative alive. Some observers interpret this as a personal decision, a conscious step back from the public eye, perhaps to focus on privacy, reflection, or simply a different pace of life. Others view it as part of a broader pattern, one that reflects the natural evolution of relationships within a high-profile and highly scrutinized environment. But regardless of interpretation, the key element remains the same. The atmosphere has changed, and that change has not gone unnoticed. Atmosphere, in the context of royal life, is a powerful thing. It shapes how stories are told, how actions are perceived, and how the public connects meaning to even the smallest details. A delayed appearance, a missed engagement, or a quieter than usual presence can all contribute to a larger narrative, even when there is no official confirmation to support it. In this case, the narrative is not built on dramatic revelations or verified developments, but on subtle shifts that invite curiosity. And curiosity, once sparked, has a way of sustaining itself. It fills the gaps left by silence, it builds connections between unrelated details, and it creates a sense of momentum, even in the absence of concrete information. For Sarah Ferguson, this moment represents more than just a shift in visibility. It reflects the complexity of her relationship with the institution itself. Having spent years both within and on the edges of royal life, she understands the expectations, the pressures, and the unspoken rules that govern it. She knows how narratives are shaped, how public perception can shift, and how quickly attention can move from one focus to another. But she also understands something deeper: the emotional dimension of living within such a system. The balance between public duty and personal identity is not always easy to maintain, and over time, that balance can shift in ways that are not immediately visible from the outside. This is where interpretation becomes both powerful and complicated. Without clear information, people begin to read between the lines. They look for patterns, they analyze changes, and they attempt to make sense of what feels different. In doing so, they create narratives that may or may not reflect reality, but which nonetheless shape public perception. Some see this moment as a period of quiet transition, a natural evolution in a long and complex story. Others see it as something more significant, a signal that underlying dynamics may be shifting in ways that are not yet fully understood. But at its core, the situation remains defined by uncertainty, and that uncertainty is what gives it its power. It is also important to recognize that not every quiet moment carries deeper implications. Sometimes silence is simply a choice, a decision to step away from constant visibility, to create space, and to regain a sense of control in a world where control is often limited. For someone who has lived much of her life in the public eye, such a decision can be both understandable and necessary. The pressure of constant attention, the weight of expectation, and the intensity of public scrutiny can all contribute to a desire for distance. And in that context, a quieter presence does not necessarily indicate conflict or tension. It may simply reflect a different set of priorities. Yet, despite this, the interest surrounding the situation continues to grow. This is partly because stories connected to the royal family rarely exist in isolation. They are part of a larger narrative, one that includes history, relationships, and the ongoing balance between public image and private reality. When even a small element of that narrative shifts, it captures attention, not because of what is known, but because of what might be unfolding beneath the surface. This sense of possibility is what keeps the story alive, even in the absence of confirmed developments. As time passes, the focus may shift, new stories may emerge, and attention may move elsewhere. But for now, the quiet surrounding Sarah Ferguson remains a point of interest, not because it confirms anything, but because it raises questions. And in a world where information is often immediate and constant, questions without answers can be particularly compelling. They invite speculation, they encourage observation, and they create a space where multiple interpretations can exist at once. Ultimately, the story is not about a single event or a specific development. It is about a moment in time where the usual rhythm feels slightly altered. A moment where silence becomes noticeable, where absence becomes meaningful, and where perception begins to shape narrative in subtle but significant ways. Because within the royal world, it is often not the loudest moments that have the greatest impact, but the quiet ones, the pauses that linger, the absences that stand out, and the silence that invites attention. And right now, that silence is doing exactly that. It is drawing focus, sparking curiosity, and creating a narrative that exists not in confirmed facts, but in the space between them. Whether it reflects a personal choice, a natural transition, or something more complex, one thing remains clear. The atmosphere has shifted, and people are paying attention. Because in a world built on image and perception, even the smallest change can feel significant. And when that change is wrapped in silence, it becomes something even more powerful, something that invites not just observation, but interpretation.